Hey everybody, my name is Andrew Copeland with Craft Beer Professionals, and I'm excited to moderate today's panel on what taproom guests want in 2025. As we move into 2025, the taproom experience is being shaped by an ever-changing landscape of guest preferences, expectations, and behaviors. Craft beer alone won't keep guests coming back, and today's successful taprooms are those that create a seamless mix of exceptional beverages, a welcoming atmosphere, and engaging staff. To stay ahead of the curve, it's critical to understand how the taproom audience is changing and what they truly desire from their visits. Today, I'm joined by 4 of your peers from across the nation to hear their insights in emerging trends, actionable strategies, and new approaches to creating memorable and profitable experiences that keep guests coming back. Now, let's meet our panelists. Justin, you are to the right of me. You have the honor of going first.
Yeah, Justin Wiener with Mad Brewing. Vice President of Revenue, oversee our food and beverage establishments and our production facilities.
Justin, where are you located?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
And you have a new location about to open up, is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Just outside of Blue Ash, it's outside of the city limits in Summit Park. Getting ready to open that on Thursday, February 6th. So we're all excited.
Well, appreciate you taking the time and excited to learn more about that one today.
Yeah, excellent.
Now, Elise, the last time you and I were in a panel together was in what city were we? We were in Vegas. Was it Vegas that we were on the panel at CBC? The city's all blurred together. So it's good to have you again. But for everyone who hasn't got to know you before, tell everybody a little bit about what you do in the world of beer and beverage.
Sounds good. Thanks, Andrew. My name is Elise Strupp. I'm the event manager at Eagle Park Brewing and Distilling. Eagle Park has 3 tap rooms in the Milwaukee metropolitan area, and I oversee events at all 3 of those. The position is not new to me, but working for Eagle Park is. I worked for a different brewery in the Milwaukee area for about 5 years and just took this new position in October. So I feel like I have lots to share in my new experiences at Eagle Park, but I'm sure I'll be calling on my experiences from my previous position as well.
Always enjoy your perspective. So thanks again.
Thanks, Andrew.
Now, Tom, I think you and Elise might have actually met at CBP Connects Milwaukee. Is that true? You were both there, right?
I was there.
Elise was there.
And it was awesome, by the way. It was a great event. Yeah.
Yeah, Tom, you look familiar. I'm sure we crossed paths in the ballroom over at the historic Pabst.
I mean, I have the Seth Rogen, Dane McBride, every person in craft beer type of vibe. So.
Well, outside of that, tell us what's unique about yourself, Tom.
So my name is Tom Painter. I work at No Label Brewing. I co-owner, also marketing and events, and a little bit of everything. We're a 14-year-old brewery. Before this, I was with a bunch of other breweries in town doing oddball gigs from St. Arnold Brewing to Carbach, etc. Used to co-host ESPN's Drink of Ages Radio in Texas. A lot of craft beer in my life. I think I'll probably end up dying in this brewery, for better or worse. But yeah, that's me. Get around. I don't know.
We'll dive into some good stuff in a moment, but thanks for the intro, Tom. And Michelle, tell us everybody a little bit more about what you do at Tradition.
So I am the taproom and events manager at Tradition Brewing in Newport News, Virginia. That's my official title, but I kind of do a little bit of everything from human resources to payroll to marketing. It's we're a small team of like 5 people here, so it's if you can do it, you kind of do it. But basically, I run the taproom. I've been here now for going on 5 years, and we've been in business for 9 years.
Oh my gosh, it's mind-blowing. You've been at Tradition 5 years now. That's awesome.
I know, it's crazy when I think about it.
Which makes me feel even worse that I hadn't been back until a few weeks ago. So I had fantastic beers and a great experience and can't wait to return a lot sooner.
Yeah, that's great.
So everybody, we've got a lot to talk about today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in that side of things. We'll do our best to acknowledge them if time allows, but we're going to dive in right now. So for everyone here today, how have you seen the profile of your average taproom guest change over the past couple of years? And are there any surprising new trends or demographics that stand out to you? And Justin, I'm going to pick on you to start things off, and everybody just jump on in.
Yeah, I think we've seen a pretty big shift over the last couple of years. Started off pretty traditional, right? Scaled a little bit more male, older demographic, and now we're seeing a lot more families in our spaces, a lot more younger people than we have before. And so like a much more diverse group of people than we would have seen 4 or 5 years ago in our space. And it just keeps on continuing to evolve over the years.
Now, Elise, like looking at both Eagle Park locations, what do you see?
Yeah. And so I've only been with Eagle Park for about 4 months, so I can't speak probably too much to how the clientele has changed over the years. I would say our 2 tap rooms are in very different locations. So like our really large production facility and tap room is located in Muskego, which is a fairly upper middle class, predominantly white suburb of Milwaukee. And our smaller tap room, which is like not exactly the original tap room. There was an even smaller one before that. But what most people think of as the original tap room is in the city of Milwaukee on the east side, which is very young. The city of Milwaukee is more Black than it is white. It's pretty equal. The general like median income in Milwaukee is much lower than it is in Muskego. So Milwaukee, we see a lot more young people. The neighborhood that we're in on the east side, we're surrounded by apartments. A lot of people that are in college, we're like nestled between UW Milwaukee and MSOE. So we see really different demographics in the 2 tap rooms. Speaking more year over year at the brewery I used to work to, I would say trends were similar to what Justin mentioned. With more families. We had a lot of taproom regulars, several of whom I helped them plan their rehearsal dinner or their wedding. And then before I knew it, they were coming back in to celebrate a first birthday or a baby shower. So we noticed there that our clients were kind of like, we got to see their families grow and change as they went from young single people that maybe had a first date in our tap room to celebrating a rehearsal dinner to then bringing their children in.
Thanks for sharing that, Luis. No, Tom, what about you? You've been at it a little bit of time now. How's the audience?
I mean, No Label, we've always been a family-centric tap room, but definitely as the years have gone on, I mean, I can echo everything that these guys just said. Our demographics has gotten younger, but definitely more. There's a lot more families that are coming in, and the ethnic diversity of the. If you went to our tap room about 12 years ago, it would have been old and it would have been white, and all those things have kind of come into that kind of late 30s. There's a lot more Hispanic vibes going on now, and a lot more families coming in. And then because of that demographic change, instead like we used to do these stronger, bolder, a lot more demand for barrel-aged beers and stronger beers. And now top 3 stronger beers in our tap rooms are, it's a Hefeweizen, it's a rice lager, and it's a blonde, and they're all just hovering around the same ABV, the same kind of flavor profile. And that's what people want, and we can't make enough of it.
Yeah. And Michelle, how about you?
Same here. We're seeing a lot more families that are coming in, and especially where we're located, kind of like right in the middle of the city. It's been really interesting for me, particularly coming from other breweries in this area. This past year, we saw a big influx of large scale events with a lot of the big corporations that are near us. We have a Jefferson Lab, which is a big IT government facility here. We have Ferguson Enterprises. So we saw a lot more corporate business this year than what we have seen in the past. And that really sustained our weekday profitability. But over the weekends, we're definitely seeing more of the families, and our age groups are probably low 30s, mid 30s. But during the week, it's definitely your 45 and up crowd. So,
Michelle, what have you all done to attract that more corporate-like audience?
We started hosting large events, and it just kind of spread by word of mouth. People were coming to see our space. They really liked it. And for obviously you folks have never been here, we have a 4,000 foot square tap room. It's 2 levels. So we have an upstairs private area with a bar upstairs. And it just became really attractive. We're across the street from many hotels. So we got people that were coming here from conferences. So the space really just spoke to those people that wanted the larger area.
It is a beautiful space. Now I'd like to dive in, because obviously this is about so much more than beer right now. If each of you had to pick one thing other than beer, what's the biggest driver that's motivating guests to visit your tap rooms?
I will just follow up with what I said. Our events were our number 2 source of revenue this year.
No, that's amazing. We'll dive more into events in just a little bit. And Elise, your background's in events, but what's your response on that one?
Yeah, love to hear it. Couldn't agree more. Every brewery should have a private events program. It's a great way to get a new revenue source. I would say what's like driving the daily consumer to the tap room as opposed to someone that maybe is like invited for a private event, I think is deals. I pulled some numbers just looking at our sales and our 2 tap rooms, the one in the suburbs and the one that's more in the city. And on Monday, we do an $8 burger night. It's our Wisconsin classic burger. And when I pulled our sales data to see our top items, because I thought it was going to be this one specific beer, which was up there. But in both tap rooms, the top seller in October, November, and December was the Wisconsin classic burger. Our Muskego tap room, which is huge. It actually, Michelle, it sounds kind of similar to what you're working with. We have an upstairs, we have a private event space upstairs and on the main floor, but it's a massive tap room. We just did a private event this weekend with 300 people. We probably could have had double that many in there. But the burger, like in December, we sold over 1,000. In November, we sold 1,200. And in October, we sold close to 1,200. Nice. But when I looked at it and how many of those were on Monday nights for the $8 burger, as opposed to when it's full price, the Mondays in December, it was 50. The 4 or 5 Mondays we had in December were 52% of all sales of the Wisconsin Classic.
That's how you make a slow night work.
Out for that $8 burger. It's delicious. And it's even more delicious when it only costs $8. So I think people are definitely looking for a deal. And that was true with our like beer sales too. Our top like 3 selling beers across both tap rooms that were consistently in those like top 3 items were all at our lowest price point. So I think most tap rooms have like tiered pricing with their beers. All of our beers that were our top sellers were going to be at the lowest price that we sell them for on-site consumption.
No, Elise, quick follow-up on that. You mentioned you have a lot of deal seekers coming out, especially on Mondays. Do you see those guests coming out on other nights, or is that the way to get them coming even just one day a week or one day a month, whatever it may be?
That's a really great question. I feel like I'm definitely still like learning our clientele and who our regulars are. It's such a big tap room, and with having the 2 locations and being based at one, I think certainly it's great for marketing. Like if, somebody brings a friend for $8 burger night and they've never been in before, that's great because it might get them there and maybe they'll come back on their own. We also on Mondays have trivia. So that helps bring people out and is definitely increasing sales on Monday night to have that burger deal combined with the entertainment of weekly taproom trivia. But I don't know if I could speak with confidence about return visits at this juncture.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, certainly private events are great. We do a lot of public events in our tap room, much like I think everyone. I mean, it's like on Mondays we have run clubs, and the run clubs are fiercely loyal no matter what. I mean, it was snowing last week in Texas, and 60 people still showed up.
Tom, they probably didn't check the weather; they just showed up.
Nothing's going to stop like a runner to get their miles in and get the beer. But then we have certain things in place for the rest of the week. Tuesdays are Taco Tuesdays. Wednesdays we have charity bingo. Thursday we have kind of live acoustic. And then on top of those days and those events, we'll have second beer free for first responders on Tuesday, second beer free for veterans on Wednesday, second beer free for teachers on Thursday. So it's like deals upon like those routine events that kind of bring people out. Those events that like anyone can do at any given time. It's pretty easy to host a run club. It's pretty easy to host a bingo. It's pretty easy to host trivia for the most part.
Sure, but it's easy to do those things. But why are they choosing No Label to celebrate those occasions?
That's a good question. I would say the personality in the beer. But once you build those audiences, it takes a little bit of time. Once you build them, like they tend to kind of like legacy themselves. Like our run club's been going for like 8 years now, and there's a reason it's so large. All those other things, it takes a little while to get those things going, but eventually those people that come to bingo, you'll have the 10 people that stick around and like you expect them to always be there, and then the 10 becomes the 20 and so on and so forth. I mean, like everything, it's consistency. It's like when you open, if you change your hours up, like only recently, well, geez, I say recently, that was like 4 years ago, but we started opening at noon on Fridays. We used to open at 3, then we changed to noon. And then it was like, oh, it's probably going to take a year for people to realize that we're open on Fridays at noon. But if you apply the consistency, eventually the audience will will get it. But you have to give it a chance. It can't just be a one and done. Otherwise, it's not going to work, at least in our experience.
No, absolutely. No, Justin, before you answer, I'd love for you to tell everybody where you're at right now, specific to the room you're in.
Yeah. So as I said, I'm at our newest location in Blue Ash, and we're very much wanting to make sure that we make our spaces as inclusive as possible. So one of those is we have a common room, right? So people with disabilities have the ability to kind of reset in the moment. That's what I'm sitting in right now. It was a big deal for us to have that and put it into our spaces, and we incorporate a lot of those features into our spaces: bar heights, entrance ways, even our play areas at this particular one as well. So it's a focal point for us, and we do a lot of training around it with our team as well, and have them understand how to interact and work with people and do that. So in both of our most recent openings, we do a full day of training on that with our teams. We also have a location downtown in the Over the Rhine district called Alcove as well, and we incorporated a lot of that into our training. So
with 3 different locations, or almost 3 locations, soon to be, what's driving people out? Is there one factor other than beer that you consider the number one, or is it different across each of your tap rooms?
I think we try to make it similar, right? I think Tom alluded to this a little bit earlier, and like that consistency piece, right? So it's big for us. We want people to go to any of our locations and feel the same in their experience. So we really drive home the experience piece with our team, and we have what we call our points of differentiation that we really focus on with our team and train them on. And it's really about the experience that you have in our tap room. And we want the environment to be very warm and welcoming. So when you walk in that door, you get like that Cheers feel, right? So it's like you have that environment with your team, and your team is very engaged with the guest and wants them to feel welcome walking into the space. And we really want to try to figure out how we're going to exceed people's expectations when they come in the door, right? What can we do to make that experience memorable for them? So when they leave our space, it's something that they want to come back for, they crave to come back for, or they want to tell other people about when they're out there. And then a big part of what we do is being part of the environment. Like, we're B Corp, right? We 1% for the planet, and we want to make sure we're telling that story along the way as well, and telling it and making sure we're representing the brand properly in everything we do. We have a kind of a little fun thing at our Oakley location where it's like a little tray that you can kind of throw $1 in for 1% for the planet. We give people the opportunity to donate at the end of their experience to buy a tree, to plant a tree. So I think everybody had like really great points, right? Whether we do some things. We did this year. We did a $5 pizza anytime there was snow and the school closed, right? So parents and families felt welcome in our space and can come and do that along the way. So I think value plays a big part of it. Private events has been huge. We have a big part of that in all 3 of our locations, and then developing that customer clientele in those big groups. We do a lot of the same things where we have game night, right? And we've done a good group with that. We do a lot around pets as well, and have events around all those things. And so I think all those things together, right, kind of make that secret recipe that get things going. So, but I think we've really pivoted hard in how do we make the experience like really, really memorable for our guests.
Yeah, we're going to dive into that more in a minute. But I love when you said that Cheers feel, how excited you got. I think you like clenched your fist in excitement when you were talking, which was amazing. But I also love the fact that that's the vibe you're going for, despite the fact that your new location, Parks and Rec, doesn't even have the word beer or brewery in it. It's a 15,000 square foot old airplane hangar. Yeah. I mean, it's so cool. You're aiming to build those relationships with such an expansive spot.
Yeah, no, I think... altogether, I actually have another 12,000 square feet outside on top of that. So it's a huge space, right? And I think that's why, right? We want to bring, we kind of call it like this culmination of everything we've been working towards along the way. We like nature, bringing nature to people. So we're in the middle of a park, and then we want to make sure we're giving a great experience. And we do a lot of things outside of beer too, right? To make sure we're hitting that diverse group that we see coming into our spaces.
And we're going to dive into that shortly. But one thing you mentioned, I'd love to hear everybody else's feedback on, is storytelling. Like, the component of your staff engaging with each guest. So for everyone else, what are you all doing to have your staff tell the stories about who you are, what you stand for, about your beers? What types of training go into that to actually make them want to, participate in those engagements?
That's a very good question.
I'm going to call on someone in a second.
I mean, that's certainly a lot of our staff has been here for more than a few years now. So a lot of them are up to speed on kind of the stories of our beer. It's certainly it's a place where I think there's more work that can be done. We try to alleviate that we have branding throughout the brewery that kind of helps to tell the story of No Label, whether that be in press that we put on.
Can you give us an example of something we might see in your tap room?
So at our tap room we have a press wall where you go in and there's kind of like there's articles about No Label, and so they're put up in a way that basically can tell a story like of the brewery and the history, but also throughout the No Label, we are surrounded by a rail line, and on our rail line we have banners, and all the banners are just our beer labels. And our beer labels, like old beer labels, new beer labels, and they're all dated, so you can basically kind of see the story of No Label, like and the story of beer. And all of our beer labels basically they harken back to some are inside jokes of the brewery, but more often than not, it's about the stuff we like, or it's about the area, or the history of Katy, Texas, the history of No Label. And so even though, I mean, bartenders should be, helping to tell that story, our space itself, I think, at least assists where it can, and the overall narrative of what is the brewery and our 14-year story.
Yeah, the atmosphere component is so important. So Justin, you talk about having that one-day training before you open up a location, I believe you mentioned. Can you talk to us a little bit about what happens during that?
Yeah, so I think we talk a lot. We have a vice president of experience and impact that I work alongside with, and she comes in and really talks to what the impact is and the things that we do. We walk everybody through it, whether it be doing composting in our spaces, or we do things called what we call GAF hours, where we get out in the community and participate and do volunteer hours throughout it's actually part of a requirement that we do. We are in constant communication with our team as well, for those that are not doing those one-day trainings, but are like continued employees or tenured employees, to keep them up to speed, and they have the information necessary to talk about 1% for the Planet or B Corp along the way as well. So it's a big part of who we are. It's part of, I guess we almost ritualize it in a way, and continue to talk about it like we would beer or food or anything else.
No, thanks for sharing all that. Michelle, talk to us a little about what Tradition is doing with regard to training.
So something that I decided to implement probably midway through last year was more frequent bar staff meetings. We used to meet once a quarter, and there just seemed to be too much to try and jam pack into that meeting and not keep people there all day. So we pick a random Sunday or a Monday night after closing, have just the bar staff come in, and we pick a topic that we want to talk about. And it's either ABC laws or customer service, or things that we feel that there's an area to improve on. And I usually get with a couple of my shift leads before those training sessions and be like, okay, what do you feel like needs to be addressed? And we kind of put our heads together to come up with a training plan. It seems to be really beneficial, and it's been helpful to touch base on a more frequent basis with the bar staff. And then our brewers also sometimes will come, and they've talked to them about new beer releases and flavor profiles and that type of thing. So I think doing the frequency of every month keeps people more engaged.
And Michelle, one of the $1 million questions I think we all have is, how do you get your staff to care?
How do I think my staff?
How do you go? How do you get them to care about all these
Oh,
things?
that's hard. I feel very fortunate that I have some staff that have been in the business for 10 plus years. They eat, breathe, they live beer. They just love it. And that was very lucky for me that they came here. And then they have just kind of, nurtured the younger bar staff that maybe didn't have that experience. And you can just see it in their interactions with bar customers. It's just very natural for them. And it's created some great relationships, which was my main goal when I came to Tradition, was to get a bar staff to build those relationships with our customers.
Awesome. Now, what I want to talk about is a word I honestly wasn't hearing a whole lot in the beer space until fairly recently, but it was something that I always made a talking point, but I wasn't necessarily saying hospitality. I think we're all saying hospitality now. We're all saying experience now. We're all talking about engagement. And wearing my other hat with Secret Hopper, we have a huge data set of nearly 10,000 visits. And I kind of dove through it. And I looked at the years 2017 to 2020. And the difference in guest spending when you had low engagement visits versus high engagement visits was 14%. And what I mean by that is when you go there and get a low level of engagement from the staff when they're barely walking through the motions versus when you have that team member who's telling the stories, asking the questions. The difference back then was only 14% between the low and the high. Not a huge difference. Then when you look at 21 to 22, it was 29% with guests receiving high engagement, spending more. Now, looking at later 2022 to currently present, or late in 2024, guests who receive a high level of engagement spend 40% more than guests who receive a low level of engagement. So for each of you, what are your businesses doing to create more memorable, but also more profitable experiences?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. I think I kind of alluded to it a little bit before, but I think we've really kind of went back to our teams and kind of talked a little bit about what you just talked about, right? About what are guests looking for right now. And we kind of went back and kind of did some retraining and did some new things and kind of talked and really engaged with them, got some feedback from them about how can we improve our spaces and what do we need to do and to get that level of engagement with the guest. So we kind of did a lot of training around this, right? And really focused on it and talked to our staff. And then on top of that, really got with really analyzed our guests, right? Whether it be through reviews or doing some marketing strategy work to get some surveys out there to understand what they're looking for and really implement that into what we're doing, right? So the team has the opportunity to execute that, to create that engaged guest that wants to be there on either a more regular basis or spend more money with you. There. So for us, it was reevaluating things and then coming up with some really strategic points that we wanted to get our teams thinking about as they went into interact. And then it was us as leaders being in the space also and really representing that with them.
Is there anything you learned from the feedback that opened eyeballs to opportunities in the tap rooms?
I think for us, it was the first time we went through this. We realized that we might have to do other things besides beer, right? And so we might have to offer some other products there, and then kind of diversify that a little bit. And then we learned that people wanted the experience to be easy, right? They wanted it to be easy, and that's why they like tap rooms, right? They come in, the experience is easy. It's not going to a formal restaurant or any of those things. So that I think those are the two big insights we walked away with.
No, thanks for sharing that. No, Lisa, I saw you get excited for this one.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about this, I guess, in two different ways. So I think there's daily experience, what are you doing on the daily when people walk in the doors? And then what are you doing maybe in terms of public events or trying to offer your guests something special to set apart their experience on a specific day or for a specific occasion. So on the daily, I think what's really important, and I would say this has been true of any tap room I've worked at or patronized regularly, is consistent staff. People like being able to be a regular. They like when they walk in and the bartender knows them by name. Our daytime bartender at our Muskego location is named Sam. He knows all of his regulars. They know that he is going to be there Monday through Thursday from open until a little bit before dinner. And there are things that are sort of like like his signature calling card that's like the experience you get when Sam is bartending that you don't get when someone else is bartending. For example, he's big on spicy beers, which means he likes to offer like tahini or hot sauce as an addition to a beer rim. And it's just like his signature thing. It's not something that was like a top-down directive. It's something that he likes. So he likes to share it with his customers. So now people come in during the day for Sam's spicy beers. So that's something that like I can relate to as a patron. I like going to certain places when I know a certain person is working because they make me feel comfortable and safe. And I like being in their presence. If I'm by myself, I know that I won't really feel alone. I'll feel like I've got a buddy behind the bar to talk to. So I think that's a huge part of it, just from like day-to-day operations, is having consistent schedules for your staff and having staff that are personable and want to get to know your customers. And then for bigger events, something that I think Eagle Park does really well is I feel like when we do host a public event, they try to kind of like celebrate the customers and make it a party for them. Very generous with giveaways. We did a couple of really big events during football season for Packer games because we're in Wisconsin. So they called it Clash of the Craft. And it was this event where we did like a Wisconsin versus Illinois tap takeover. So we invited up a brewery from Illinois that we were friends with, put a bunch of their beers on tap, still had a bunch of our stuff on tap. And then we did giveaways at like every commercial break. We had Blackberry Brandy touchdown shots when the Packers score and Malort touchdown shots when the Bears scored. We had special food items for the day. So we tried to like really lean into the theme. And then there were a lot of like fun incentives just for showing up. And obviously, if someone's coming for a football game, that means you're going to get their butt in the seat for like 3 hours. So they're spending during that 3 hours, which helps offset giving away shots of liquor and doing giveaways at all those commercial breaks. But the building was packed. Like the first time we ran out of seats, and then the second time we did it for the Vikings game, we knew in advance. So we put more seats out in advance. But it was a full house. And I think people felt like appreciated. It was almost like a mini customer appreciation event. So I think things like that if you can let your clientele know that if they come in for one of your big public events, like it's going to be a good time, and you as their host will have thought about their experience. I think that goes a long way in getting them back.
I like what you said. People come for people is one thing I took away from you just said. But when they come to your space, you are their host, just like you bring someone into your home and you have to make them feel welcome. I really love that concept. Tom, what are you thinking on this one?
Oh, I mean, in terms of there's people love the regular, the bartender, and also you love the regular customer, and then you got your power regs. When you're talking about kind of basically like people who are spending more in a brewery. A few years ago we launched our mug club, which is a lifetime mug club. People do this different ways, annual or lifetime. We have a lifetime mug club where these people they spend $1,000 plus to get that free daily beer, and they get 20% off merch, and they get to be on a wall, and these people that essentially get this benefit of this beer for free end up spending more than anyone else in the brewery because they come so often to pick up that beer. We have like this guarantee. It's like a premium regulars group, and these people are also the first people to tell you what the brewery needs and doesn't need, and what they're willing to spend money on. And because they have that mug, they'll literally just like walk right into the office, and you're like, "How did you get the code to the door? This doesn't make any sense." But yeah, I mean, those regular faces, and then also, and a mug club is great because you can also ping them all. You have all their contact information, and you can ping that whole group. And we have like we do stuff where we release a beer like every other Friday, but we'll have mug events where we'll bring them out a day earlier just for them. So they'll come out on Thursday and create that kind of that FOMO, but also they get to try it early, and they get to put that money in the tap room. They'll come out just because we're having that beer out early for them. And I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of ways to, bring people to the, talking about that one event. I mean, we do events all the time we were talking earlier before about like movie nights and paint nights and all sorts of events to to create something unique that's not just on the regular, but every once in a while, like a big event. We're having a Lunar New Year festival next week, and with some merch to match, and hopefully, as long as the weather holds, it'll be a big payday for the brewery.
Well, I hope you don't get any snow on that one. We've heard a lot of conversation on events in this call already, but Tom, you also talked a lot about loyalty. I have some follow-ups about your mug club. Did you mention they get a free beer how often?
They get a free beer every day.
Free beer every day. So coming in, they're getting free beer every day, but you say they're spending more than the other guests.
Yeah, they're spending well. So ours specifically. I mean, mug clubs are all sorts of pricing for mug clubs. Ours specifically is put at $1,300. It's a one-time fee, and once they pay that, they get a cup. It stays at the brewery, and they get a free beer every day. And most people come in like 3-4 days a week, but they're staying for more than one beer. And because they're here every day, every time we drop a new piece of merch or every time they hear about something, like they're very involved in the going-ons of the brewery. And I mean, they're power regulars. And they'll always bring friends, and their social circles at the brewery translate to outside the brewery. So it's great. I really believe in mug clubs. There's a lot of other breweries in the area, in the Houston area, that do them, and there's a lot of talk on what's a good price model, annual or lifetime. But I think the consensus amongst all of us is that if we want someone, whether it's a good deal or a bad deal, we want the person to use the mug club. We want the person to actually, we want the money, but we want them to come to the brewery. The worst is to have a mug that just sits on a wall and no one uses it. That's no good for anyone, really. So
that's a really valuable benefit. You're the second person in about a week who's talked about giving away free beers in some capacity. And, I don't know, but if I was given the decision, I had to take a left or a right at the end of my street. In one place, I was already going to get my first beer for free. I'm pretty much always choosing right. So that's cool. You've built that loyalty among such those diehard regulars. Now, Michelle, you also have a mug club too you're pretty proud of. How are you making it work?
We do. So the mug club was here when I started, and it's very interesting. After you and I chatted earlier today, I went back to see what our numbers were when I started. So when I started here in 2021, end of 2020, we only had 57 mug club members. And I was like, wow, guys, I really think that we can grow this. So we are now at 155 mug club members, which is more than they've ever had since they've opened the doors here, and they've had it for going on 9 years. And it's really, I contribute it to our bar staff. When I started here, we didn't have what Elise was talking about. People never worked the same shifts. We had a lot of changeover in staff. So we built a staff that has been consistent for the last 3 years. You can come in on every Monday, and the same guy has been working for the last 3 years. So he's been able to build those relationships with people. And it's really, it's in the numbers. It's proved that it's worked. And then we have like a different loyalty program. Like we have 2 different levels of membership. So we have just a regular one where you pay a lower fee and you just get a glass, a 20-ounce glass, but you still get like the discounts and that type of thing. And then we have the mug membership, which is a higher level that also includes, you get a case of beer included in your mug club membership. And you can take that all at once. You can spread it out through the year. So different incentives or different levels.
Awesome. No, thanks for sharing that. As we have these conversations, I love the consistency references a few times there. That's one we don't normally get, but it's so important because guests want those consistent experiences. But we're also trying to attract new people to come to our spaces. So let's pretend, you have a new person coming in, you don't know them from the next person. What process is your team going through to make sure they find the right beverage?
That's a good question.
I love to hear holding certain. Yeah, Justin, take it.
Yeah, yes. I think one of the things we encourage our staff is to engage the guests right when they walk up, right? And so, what are you looking for today, right? And try to understand what they normally drink. You know, are they looking for a hoppy beer? Are they looking for a light beer? Are they looking for a sour beer? Are they looking, you know, combination of all, you know? So I think really what they do is they ask a lot of questions to try to invite information out of the guest so they can guide them to the beer that they think best suits them. And we're not scared to like have them sample beers, right? Let's give you a 3 to try and see which one's like the one that fits you the most along the way. And then, like everybody probably does, we do flights, right? So it gives them the opportunity to experience a lot of different beers. So I think number one thing is that question when you first engage them right up front, right? Is like, hey, what brings you in today? What are you looking for? You've been here before. We got some new beers on, and just like really be out there kind of providing the information. And I think number one is, like, as I said, is asking the questions.
What Justin, I think we were meant to meet today. I was literally working on my talk for the upcoming CBC with my panelist, and we have an action item slide of the things I want people to take away from it. And my action item is literally ask questions.
Yeah.
That's what you need to get your team to do. I guess when it comes to questions, are you telling your team or giving them ideas of what questions to ask? Like, is there a Mad Tree script, or are you kind of putting their ball in their own court to kind of figure out what question feels right for them?
Yeah, I think we leave it loose. Like, we say, here's the initiating question, and then leave it up to them and their personality on how they're gonna guide people. So not very scripted.
I love that.
Agreed.
Anyone else have any thoughts on, you know, how you're educating new guests who might not even be familiar with beer, of how your brewery taproom experience works? Now, Tom, I'm going to pick on you on this one. I bet you have an answer. Like, you know, someone walks in, they've never been there before. You talk a lot about the atmosphere of No Label and using that as a lot of your messaging. What type of signage is in your spot to make people kind of know where to order? What is the menu like? I'd love to kind of hear about the physical appearance and how that's.
Well, I mean, much like Munich, you know, when you go there for Oktoberfest, we have signs on the ground that are telling people this is the way to beer, this is the way to the tap room. And then, you know, once you get in there, we have a metal wall, which the metals are they're all kind of put on like above the taps, but then we have screens that kind of detail you that detail the beers, like, and then the metals and all those things. So, you know, those things to me help kind of basically, like, that beer is at least good. I don't even know where it is, but something's telling me that, you know, someone else said it was good, so therefore it's good. I mean, it depends. You know, our tap room, when it's not busy, when there's a line that we don't need to break, then our tap room team will definitely engage and have a conversation and samples and what type of beer styles do you like, you know, well, what's a domestic, if you like Coors or, you know, this, maybe this is closer. However, you know, when it comes to like the weekend, we're essentially relying on solely that branding or signage to break the line, because, you know, when the line is deep, you know, like, we got to move it. And unfortunately that it's pretty hard to have those intimate one-on-ones, like when you're in the middle of it. So, you know, if you come to the tap room during the week or during the slow period, you're probably getting the best experience and the best. I don't know. I mean, it's a challenge to try to break it, but I think the only way to do it is with the branding that's around you. It's kind of like wanting someone to pick their beer out before they actually get to the actual, you know, the beer line. You know, we have QR codes with menus in place that take them to places like where they can study up and learn more. But that's a lot that we're putting onto the customer, because the last thing we want to do a Saturday at 3:00 and we have a 40-person beer line is to have a 5-10 minute conversation right at the front. So there's my answer, non-answer for you.
Well, you got to make the most of that brief encounter and work your way up to having that guest prepared when they get to that point of contact.
Yeah.
Well, Elise, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't think we're doing anything like revolutionary. We definitely offer a lot of samples. In our tap room, laws changed in Wisconsin, so breweries can now serve liquor. So we serve beer. We are also a distillery, so we serve both house-made spirits, and then we have a cocktail menu that includes some like spirits, liqueurs, you know, other ingredients, alcoholic ingredients that are not house-made. We serve wine, and we have a very popular hemp-derived THC beverage. So there's a fair amount of education that goes in, especially if someone orders one of those hemp-derived THC beverages. If that gets ordered, our staff is very good about clarifying, like, just to make sure you understand that's a THC beverage, because sometimes people just look at it and be like, "Ooh, citrus sounds good." So that's one where there's always a follow-up, and the staff is really good about that. With the QR code ordering, our customers need a fair amount of education. So like if I'm taking a reservation, not booking a private event, but just a reservation, I always explain how our system works on the front end, because you can sit at the bar and order, you can go to a specific part of the bar and order and take it to your table, or you can order from a QR code at the table. So the QR code ordering at the table is nice because people can take as much time as they need with the menu, but they don't get to ask a server a question. They would have to go to the bar to do that. I find that we have a lot of repeat guests, and when I'll clarify in an email in advance for a reservation, "Are you familiar with our QR code system?" They'll be like, "Oh yeah, we're there all the time. We get it." But for new customers, it's something that takes a little bit more. So before you can even direct them to a beverage selection, you have to help them understand how they're going to order. But it does help us do a ton of covers in like a 500-person restaurant on a weekend. So
yeah. Yeah, so we have the same thing. We do the QR codes. One thing that we have found has been beneficial is on weekends when we know we're going to be super busy, we have a lot of parties booked, is we will actually put printed menus on the tables for people of the beer list. Even though we have the QR codes, we have also found that a large portion of our customers that come in, they want to have those menus. They want to touch it. They want to feel it. And then again, it's kind of like what Tom was saying, on those busy days, it's like we don't necessarily have the time to engage like we'd like to with the customers. We offer samples, and I've told our staff, pick some key focus points about the beers that you like that you can just spit out real quick. It explains the beer the best that it can in a short amount of time. But yeah.
I know Andrew has an interesting statistic about printed menus.
Yeah, so we have printed menus included as part of the menu of menus, so to speak, because we all know there's so many kinds of menus out there. You see the highest tabs. So I know people have love-hate relationship with having to print it, but people do appreciate printed menus because at least if you and I are sitting at the bar, we're going to chat about the menu. We're going to plan our next drink. We're going to learn about the beers. It's a great tool to get information out there. I don't have the exact stat, but yes, people spend more money when they have an actual physical menu in front of them. So thanks, Elise, for the setup on that one. So now I want to talk a little bit about actually not beer, because many of you are doing non-beer things in your places. So Justin, you have a pretty robust, pretty neat, ready to drink cocktail line, Sway. Talk to us a little bit about that and the impact it's having.
Yeah, about 2 years ago, we entered into the RTD category with our Sway product, and I've seen a lot of success with it, almost to becoming 20% of our distribution portfolio as well. But we're seeing the same trend in our tap room as well, as where guests are looking for things in the tap room that are not just beer, right? And we've kind of really grown into it. And on top of it, non-alcoholic products have become a big part of what we do there. We've seen in the last year 36% growth in that particular category, and it's become a big deal for us. So we've pivoted pretty hard into making sure that we have like a really diverse beverage selection, more than we've ever had, like in the last year and a half, whether it be wine, bar, our RTD collection, THC drinks, mocktails, cocktails, kind of making sure that people have the ability to experience things in there, and it's not just beer anymore as well. So kind of really expanding that out.
So looking at the RTDs that you're doing, the non-alcoholic line, is this kind of something that's bringing in a new audience, or is it helping maintain your current audience? Like, what do you see with regards to people who are diving into these products?
Yeah, I think it's both, right? I think beer consumers are pivoting out of beer a little bit as well. So they're getting into that ready to drink cocktail, the Sway cocktail, the vodka soda in a can. So we're seeing that happen. And then I think it's also diversifying it out, right? So we'll call it like, so you don't get the veto vote, like, oh, we can't go to a tap room. They only have beer, right? And so gives them the option to be like, oh, wait, you can go there. You can get a sway, which is a vodka soda, or you can have a mocktail if you're doing dry January. So I think it's kind of done both, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. The more you can capture the entire group, the longer they're going to hang out. Whether it's, the kid I'm bringing with me or the person who doesn't even drink or the person who doesn't drink beer. If you can capture all of their attention, they're going to spend more money.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Elise, you shared some interesting data with me at your Muskego location. Did I say that right? I was kind of hesitant to say that.
You did. And it's a Potawatomi word, so good job.
I'm not going to try that word, but we're going to kind of just stick with your Muskego location. You had shared, well, one, that your burger is the best-selling item, but tell us about the second best-selling item.
Yeah. So, in my, going into this, I was like, I bet our best-selling item is going to be this thing called Ecto Cooler. So when we're talking about diversity in beverages, it's a seltzer. It is a malt-derived seltzer. It's not a gluten-free product, but it is bright green. The description of it is bright green and tangerine, but it's supposed to be like a nod to some nostalgic childhood flavors. And we have this whole line of.
You don't know about Ecto Coolers?
What's that?
You don't know about Ecto Coolers?
Well, for those who don't, I'm saying that's like what the nod is to. So if you're not familiar, so we have the Ecto Cooler, which is by far our most popular. It's bright green. To Tom's earlier point about the demographics of the tap room, I would say our Muskego tap room demographics, if I come out from my desk in the middle of the afternoon, generally tends to be white, more like middle-aged men. And what always makes me laugh is that they're all sitting there with bright green juice in front of them. There's definitely no stigma about ordering a beer-looking beer. The Ecto Cooler is super popular. That whole line has done really well for us. We did a Christmas cooler around the holidays. Again, leaning into the nostalgia, we did a Concord grape that tasted a lot like Welch's grape juice. People went crazy for that one, but they're alcoholic seltzers. And in December, that was our second best-selling item. We sold 550 of them in our Muskego tap room alone. And then the third best-selling item was that Christmas cooler. So those are something that I think have helped us retain people that have maybe their palate has changed from just being a beer drinker. It is still a beer class product, but it's much lighter for something that sounds probably really sweet. It actually is very dry and clean on the finish. And then it's coming in at a low ABV, 5% alcohol. So it's very sessionable. Some of the guys that sit at the bar after work in the afternoon that I'm referencing will sit and have several of them because it's not a big barrel-aged stout. It's something that's a little bit easier. You have it with your lunch. You have a couple in the afternoon and it's not going to put you to sleep. So those have been really very popular, and they're probably one of our best known products. It's also a product that's distributed pretty widely. And I think part of that is just the recognition. When you see bright green stuff in a glass, it really can only be one thing. So
sounds like a fun product to try. Maybe someday I'll get the opportunity. So for all of you, we talked about a lot of interesting things. We could talk for hours on taproom things, but I am curious from each of you, is there anything that's surprising you about the taproom part of our industry right now?
I'll pivot the question a little bit. Say surprise. I think, when we first went to kind of change things up in our tap rooms and not just be beer, but we were kind of oh man, how are people going to receive this, right? Surprisingly, people have been very accepting of it, and I think that was the thing that we were. I think challenged with the most is we have regular clientele. Are they going to be accepting? Do people want this in the space? All of those things. And then we did it and people were like, no, we're okay with this. We're kind of cool with this. And so I think that was for us, in our spaces, in our Oakley location or our new location, our downtown location, when we do those things, the acceptance of it. And I think we were a little nervous about that in the beginning.
Yeah, I think there's a real reason to be nervous because you want to please your long-term customers, but also attract new ones and find that happy medium where you can do it all.
Yeah.
I guess I have two, one that is maybe more of a negative surprise and one that's more positive. Most of my experience in event management at breweries has been in an urban environment. And in my current position is the first time I've really spent a lot of time at events in a suburban tap room. And I've been surprised by how little people expect to spend for their private events. And I would say that's something that in like working downtown, I would quote a rental and a minimum and very rarely hear someone say it was out of budget. More often the feedback I would get was like how excellent our prices were. And I'm sure that's just because compared to like more expensive venues and hotels in the downtown area, we seemed like a great value. Whereas in the suburban environment, sometimes I'll send what I think is like an unreasonably low minimum because it's like a Tuesday night and we're happy for the business. And the client will come back and say, oh, that's out of range. And I'm like, how do you expect to host food and drinks for $12 a head? So I've been surprised just at what some people are expecting to spend for what they want to achieve, which I do think goes back to my earlier point just about like people really want value right now. So that's something that's been a challenge because you want to show that like what you can offer is going to be worth it, but there's also only so much you can do with a very specific and maybe unreasonable budget. On a more positive note, we have a new tap room in like a Southside downtown neighborhood. That's our MKE brewing brand. So we acquired a different brand. It's unique from Eagle Park, same ownership. And that tap room being new, we're still just trying to get people in the door, let people know we're there. The brand is very familiar, but it had gone away for a while. So again, there's more re-education there. So in planning public events, we've just been kind of trying everything to see what sticks. And we've had an obscene amount of success with speed dating, which was something that I thought was like from the 90s and antiquated, but it has brought out tons of people that didn't know the tap room was there. And it's been like a really diverse group of people that it continues to bring into the tap room. We partner with another company, so it's a very light lift for us, but it means that our tap room is like packed one Monday night a month. So my takeaway from that would be that you might be surprised at like something that you might be like, oh no, that's not going to be a fit for our clientele or our demographic. I continue to be surprised by how well it does.
Do you ever have like regulars show up on speed dating night, not knowing it's speed dating night, just like, okay, I'll play?
The first night we did it, someone came up and was like, hey, I'm not here for this. Can I sign up? And it was like, sure. So it's been, especially for a new tap room, it's been really great for exposure. And I just think, it's on a really busy street. If people walk or drive by and they see that tap room full, they don't know if it's speed dating or not. They just think, hey, MKE Brewing looks like a fun place to hang out. So yes, surprised by what's sticking, but pleasantly surprised. And it'll remind me to continue to try new things for public events that I might not feel will be a success that they can be.
Throw that spaghetti and see what sticks. I know at some breweries here in Virginia, we've seen a bit of speed dating. Michelle, have you done speed dating yet?
We have not done speed dating yet, but we did just have a onesie party this past weekend, and it was amazing.
Did it surprise you how amazing it is, or what else is surprising you?
Well, the turnout for our onesie event that we did on Friday was really more than what we had expected. It was probably only the second time we've ever had a DJ here at Tradition. And we played around with that for a while of like, do we want to bring in a DJ versus live music? And it really seemed to be the vibe for that night. And people are still talking about it today. Like they said it's one of the best brewery events that they've been to in a really long time, like in the area in general. But speaking about events and public events, we went through a couple years where we were trying different events to see what would work, what wouldn't. And I'd say we did like 12 large festival style events. And we've narrowed it down to like 5 that people keep asking for us to do. And the community gets behind them and supports them. So it's really been kind of like trial and error of seeing what works. And some of the events that people were really, that got behind 100% really kind of surprised me. Our country music festival last year, didn't expect the turnout that we got. And now it's one of our most requested events to come back. So.
Oh, cool. Thanks for sharing that. I'll have to make it over for that one. Now, Tom, I know you do a lot of events. We could talk about this forever, but rapid fire round. Tell us one of your favorite events that you do and how you pair merchandise with it.
Oh, geez. We do, I told you before, we have a Lunar New Year thing coming up. But we also have movie nights that we'll do. We're doing a Harry Potter series right now, and we have an artist. He'll do a paint night where people will theme together a poster type thing. Families go out to it and they'll do it, and then they can watch a movie right after they had their paint night. And then we have complimentary merch like that we'll make, and depending on your margins on how you do it, like we'll do glassware, silly pine stickers, koozies, what have you. And it's just a nice way there's kind of a built-in audience for this fandom like thing, and then we'll get a nice, a few extra grand in the pocket, pop on that day. And we do a few of those, and we also are doing speed dating next Thursday as well. So
First time?
No, we did it last year. It was great people watching. But we're doing it on a Thursday, and the part of me that just looks at taproom numbers is thinking maybe that would be better on a Tuesday night or a Monday.
Let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
I hope the spaghetti sticks for you as well.
Yeah, people had a great time last year. It's and it's unusual. It's not a regular thing, so that part is always great. Also, petting zoos been a huge hit for us this year. People love bringing animals into a brewery and paying them. Just throwing it out there. Very easy.
Petting zoos. Okay, that's the takeaway for everybody today. Petting zoos, green drink. We're done. But Justin, everybody else has shared, slightly unusual events that have worked well. Do you have an unusual or unique event that Mad Tree has seen success with?
Yeah, I'm not going to go unusual. I'll go unique on this one. We do one in October. It's called Let's Grow Local, and it's like very much around who we are and what we do. So we do an employee offsite, but it's a culmination of like a week event. So we start off with a tree giveaway. We partner with the parks where you can come in, participate in getting a tree that is offered to you through low canopy areas, right? And plant the trees. Then we do a night in the taproom called Night in the Trees, and we just put all the most amazing event where all these trees are lit up. We light up the outside patio, and you're just basically in a forest in the middle of our outside patio out there. And then we finished the week off with our team getting outside this past year, planting 200 trees in the Cincinnati community, which is really about Mad Tree, all those things together, right, and what we do. And then we do a beer with it on top of it, right, where we went out and worked with a local farm, got honey, added the honey into the beer, and did that as well, and had that available through our tap room. So I think that's our unique event and what we do, and we celebrate that, and it's probably the most exciting time of year for me.
So cool. Thanks for sharing that with us. Now, everybody, I want to wind down with one final question. And Michelle, I'm going to give you like 10 seconds to prepare because you're going to get to go first because Justin started us off when we did introductions.
Okay.
So I first off appreciate all of you for taking the time today to share your insight. But if you had to give taproom owners, managers, whoever's watching today or listening in the future, one piece of advice for creating more memorable and profitable experiences this year, what would it be? Try to be specific, and there are no repeats allowed. So, Justin, that's going to make it a little harder for you. I apologize, but Michelle, you get to go first.
Wait, can you repeat the question at least?
What is the one piece of advice you want to pass along to other taproom managers and owners to see success in 2025?
Okay.
It's funny because we talk about this all the time. I think it's really important for the owners to stay aware of what's going on in their tap room. So many of breweries around here, I know their owners are not always on site. They depend on the staff to run and keep things going. But a great line of communication with your bar staff and your managers is key because these are the people that are talking to your customers every day and get the feedback. And they're the ones that know what the customers want. So that's what I would say.
Well, thanks, Michelle, and I hope to see you soon.
Absolutely.
Tom, you're up.
Oh, thank you. I think that's listening to your customers and just kind of thinking smarter, not harder. Meeting people where they live. We use in terms of so we've been around for 14 years. We're bringing back a lot of beers that people have been asking about, being like, "Hey, why don't you bring that one back? Why don't you bring that one back? Or why And it's an easy trick because we can do this anytime because we actually make the product. And And so now we're starting to do this because now it's definitely beer crunch time, for the industry, and especially when it comes to August or January, February, it's a great time to bring back classics, to bring people back to the tap room, because if you snooze, you lose, and this is when we need people the most to come out. So,
well, thank you, Tom. Elise, you're up.
Okay. So I guess this might be more specific to owners of tap rooms who have multiple tap rooms. And I don't own any tap rooms, so maybe don't listen to me at all. But I think it's important to have a clear company ethos, but to allow each of your own locations to have a unique personality. Just like I've been saying so many times, what our clientele in the suburb wants is so different than what our clientele downtown wants. And both can exist as Eagle Park Brewing, but it's important to let each of those tap rooms be what they are, because that's what's going to keep people coming back and feeling like it is a place for them.
I like that one a lot. Very on brand with what you stand for.
Thanks.
Justin, take us home.
Yeah, everybody had great answers, so I'm going to try to come up with something that's different here, because I think I would have went with listen to your guest on this one, but I'm going to say data, right? Listen to the data at the end of the day. What is coming through that line of information that you can gather, whether it be pig mixes that you're seeing in your spaces, guest reviews and information can go through there. But it's data for me is number one. Listen to it.
I won't argue with that one. Taproom data and data in general can be so valuable to see greater success. Well, awesome, everyone. Justin, Elise, Tom, and Michelle, it's been great hanging out with you today. I hope to see you all in person at some point in time. For anyone interested in joining CBP in person, well, we're going to be having a party at the Craft Brewers Conference at Gugman House Brewing on April 28th. You'll see a lot of links about that in CBP. Our next workshop is going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, this June 9th, 10th, and 11th for CBP Connects Charlotte. It's been really cool to watch Charlotte grow as a beer city, as are many of your locations we're talking about today. But once again, thanks everybody for joining us today, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.